Thank you very much for having me today. Thanks to obviously Paul and Melinda from Pittwater for saying that I absolutely could not miss this event. So I'm already really excited about some of the guest speakers that we've heard from this morning. And as David said, it really is the same themes that we're talking about through today. What I'd like to talk to you about is placemaking, urban renewal and economic activity using one of the examples in the City of Canada Bay. So I'm the place manager for Rhodes, so obviously I'm going to talk to you about the suburb of Rhodes. To give you a little bit of context, the City of Canada Bay is around 16 kilometres away from Sydney's CBD. The Rhodes Peninsula, which the big red arrow points to, is around 23 kilometres away from the CBD. It's right near Sydney Olympic Park, where the site of the 2000 Olympics. And it's also on the beautiful Parramatta River. We're very lucky in the City of Canada Bay. We have a relatively large city area, considering we're in the inner west of Sydney, but we're actually really small compared to areas like Pittwater, Sutherland Shire Council, so local government area that's relatively small in area. We have 17 different suburbs, relatively small population of just under 80,000 at the 2011 census. We're also the fastest growing local government area in New South Wales, arguably, of course. Population projections are projected to increase by 3% per annum to 2030. One of the main motivations for this population increase is the urban renewal and redevelopment that's happening in the Rhodes Peninsula. We have a pretty large workforce, and the workforce is projected to grow at a very similar rate. We have over 8,500 businesses and 38 kilometres of foreshore. So that both creates opportunity but also creates a number of challenges. We've talked a lot today about places, and I think it's always really important to think, well, what makes a place? And that's something that we share depending on the size and the location of the place that we're talking about. When the City of Canada Bay thinks about placemaking and thinks about economic development and urban renewal in our suburbs, our parks and in our strip shopping malls, is we think about a holistic and integrated approach to what makes a place. It's one of those system approaches that we appreciate that everything is connected. We always talk about the importance of engaging stakeholders. At the City of Canada Bay, we try and remind ourselves on a daily basis, those stakeholders that we talk about are just the human beings that live, work and play in the areas that we're talking about. So it's actually really important to stop thinking about stakeholders as this unusual concept that we can't grapple a hold of. Stakeholders are the people that are sitting in the room. They're the business owners that have lived in the area for 60 years, have run a business on Majors Bay Road or somewhere in Rhodes for 15 years. So they're the people that actually know the place really well. They've brought their kids up in that place. Their kids go to school in the place, and essentially they're the people that you want to make sure are engaged in what you're doing and the changes that might be happening. All of these different pieces make up the puzzle of place. And so this is what we really need to think about. When we talk about placemaking, or there's a motivation for change or doing something different in a suburb or along a street shopping mall, something like that, you need to think about what's those initiators of action. So what's actually motivating us as local government, you as business owners, state government, or community members, community organisations, or individual residents? What's motivating us to actually make a change or start a discussion about something that's needed to be done? So there's a catalyst. Those catalysts are very different depending on what place you're talking about. I'm going to talk about 3 different places today. Rhodes, which is obviously my main focus, is a very large example of placemaking in the City of Canada Bay. The main catalyst for placemaking or looking at improvements in Rhodes was really urban renewal and development. It was establishing a new community, but also making sure we don't forget the community that's lived there for a very long time. Significant population growth obviously pushed local government to do something and think about what was going to happen in the area. And we were very lucky. There was quite a lot of interest from foreign investment and lots of residential sales off the plan. We're lucky in the Rhodes Peninsula. It's actually been a very interesting economic bubble, and a number of our developers have on-site salespeople that have grown up in China and Korea and actually selling almost 90% of the properties actually off the plan to people that may never even visit Australia. Another area that I'm going to talk to you about today is Drummoyne. Had a very different catalyst for thinking about placemaking. Drummoyne is probably quite similar to some of the examples in Pittwater. Has a major arterial road, Victoria Road, that goes right through the middle of Drummoyne's business district. A number of decisions are made by state government. The building of the Iron Cove Bridge really affected businesses, or was perceived to potentially affect businesses within the area. State government also considered installing 24/7 road clearways and removing parking on Victoria Road. So we had a number of perceived and actual economic impacts and challenges that businesses needed to be able to look at in that area. The third example that I wanted to talk to you about is a really small example, but we feel that it's been a big success in North Strathfield. The catalyst for change in North Strathfield really was about a political champion, one of our councillors that had lived in the area for a really long time and really wanted to see North Strathfield come into the 21st century. It was very much worried about decline. Both residents and some of our councillors were worried about it looking a little bit shabby, not really feeling that great. And there was quite a lot of change in master planning, so opportunities for infill development, changes under the local environmental plan, and it really was an area earmarked for change, especially due to the proximity to the West Connects and the Parramatta Road urban revitalisation. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about was obviously the Rhodes Peninsula. This is the area that I know best. The Rhodes Peninsula is very interesting in that it has a strong history of remediation. We had some significant industrial heritage in Rhodes on the western side of the train line. So it's a peninsula that's divided by a major train line and surrounded by water and the Parramatta River. We had really large industries like Union Carbide and Allied Feeds. So pretty significant remediation was actually required in that area. And some best practice examples were used and learnings from the remediation that was done in Sydney Olympic Park and Homebush around the Olympics. We have a number of really great reasons why residents want to live in Rhodes. A number of residents that have moved there or recently invested there are motivated by amazing transport connections, really great water views, being only 23 kilometres from the city, but also having very high-end options for apartment living. So it's really interesting to see that 23 kilometres away from the city, even a one-bedroom apartment is getting into that $500,000, $550,000 plus. We have an estimated 8,000 jobs daily in the Rhodes Peninsula. These are provided by Mirvac's Rhodes Shopping Centre, which has been there for 10 years this year. Rhodes Corporate Park, and a number of small businesses, both home-based businesses and cafes and restaurants, and then also some of your allied health connections to Concord Hospital, which is literally just around the corner. The City of Canada Bay and the community that lives in Rhodes is very lucky. This urban renewal and additional residential and mixed-use development has created an opportunity for change. We have over $43 million worth of voluntary planning agreement funds and Section 94 funds, which have been contributed due to the development. The council and the community has been able to identify a number of priorities and areas that we're able to deliver change. Some of these are really small improvements that are very important to the community, like footpath and road upgrades, new cycleway connections, all the way through to brand new parks and open space and a $16 million community precinct. To tell you a little bit more about the Rhodes community, we're seeing some significant population growth. At the 2006 census, there was only about 3,500 residents that lived in Rhodes and Liberty Grove. By 2011, we had over 8,000 residents. Now we estimate there to be about 9,500 residents, and by 2020, we're expecting at least 15,000. This number always changes depending on additional master planning that's done within the area. We need to importantly think about our places in their regional context. So the Rhodes Peninsula isn't just out there by itself. It's right next to Sydney Olympic Park and Wentworth Point. So very soon in 2020, Wentworth Point, Sydney Olympic Park and Rhodes will have a population of over 40,000 residents in a very small area. We have relatively high socioeconomic backgrounds of residents that live in Rhodes, with significant number of Korean and Chinese communities moving into the area, and also Hindi populations connecting to the place. We're finding that engagement with stakeholders is just as vital in the development of Rhodes as any other place. Both those residents that have lived on the eastern side of the peninsula for 60 years and seen the change in the industrial landscape, all the way through to those residents that have just moved to Australia from overseas. When we think about Rhodes and we think about why this place necessarily works, we have to look at local investment and local opportunities. The City of Canada Bay and the Rhodes Peninsula has been very lucky. It was identified as a specialist precinct by the New South Wales Department of Planning and Infrastructure's draft metropolitan strategy. It identified Rhodes as a priority area for clustering office-based jobs and medical enterprises associated with Concord Hospital. It was a greater focus for intense commercial and residential activity, and we were told that we needed to provide capacity for at least an additional 2,000 jobs by 2031. Wentworth Point was only recently in March last year identified as an urban activation precinct, and there's a number of mixed-use development opportunities happening on that side of the peninsula. Rhodes Shopping Centre has also been motivated by this population growth, and they're looking at turning their box shopping centre out onto the street. So that creates a whole lot of opportunities around street activation, but it also helps them to look at their retail mix and actually consider things like the changing nature of the population and how they want to interact with their local shopping centre. It also throws up a whole lot of challenges around the practical things like car parking, waste removal, sustainability. A number of residents and customers within the Rhodes Peninsula are telling us that there's still areas that they think need to be delivered around opportunities in leisure and recreation and also social services businesses. So we're really not at capacity yet, which we're very excited about. Rhodes is also happening in a context of pretty significant infrastructure projects like the $40 million Homebush Bay Bridge that's recently commenced, the Northern Freight Line extension and the duplication of the freight line, cycleways, our community precinct, and really opportunities of density has created opportunities for businesses like Go Get Car Share to be able to test out alternative transport options in Rhodes, which has been created as a transport-orientated development. To give you a little bit of an idea, on the western side of Rhodes, there's around 5,500 apartments, about 150,000 square metres of retail space. On the eastern side of Rhodes, we have around 3,000 apartments and single dwellings for residents, and we have around 22,000 square metres of commercial space. Why Rhodes is the question that I always get asked. And really the questions that I get asked are the questions that you should be asking about your own place that you're thinking about. What's the differential or the sales pitch? What brings residents, what brings businesses, and what brings customers to your place? What's the draw card? What makes people stay, linger, and potentially spend money in the local area? Does the built form, the community, and the place encourage investment? So why is Rhodes working? It's an established commercial, retail, and industrial tenants of the past have considered that it's an ideal location within Sydney, and they've stayed. We have a growing global business park, like big companies like Nestle, Citibank, Unisys, HP, Alcatel-Lucent, and Zoetis. We've got a high level of public and private investment, and that's really the key. It's not just about one stakeholder or one element in the economy investing. It's really about everybody investing and then creating an environment for encouraging that investment. So it's a desirable place to live and work. Development means that local government is putting investment in for facilities and infrastructure. So it creates a place where workers want to be able to go out into the local park, eat their lunch outside, and potentially spend their retail dollars in the local shopping centre and also on the strip shopping. Waterside living and the variety of transport options. Rhodes is lucky that it has both train, bus and ferry options for residents. We also have high quality housing choices, cycle and pedestrian opportunities that are unlike anywhere else in the city. And over the last 5 years, Rhodes train station has seen a 100% increase in customers, over 11,000 movements every single day on the train station. But there's also a high demand for commercial property and affordable industrial premises. The City of Canada Bay knew that it was really important to engage with those human beings that live in the place. What we were happy to find is the things that were important to residents, businesses and the community is the same things that are important to everyone in the place where they live. They want to have adequate infrastructure provision, they want to have a well-maintained public domain, and they want to have an active and vibrant peninsula. So they want to have those pop-up activities. They want to be able to socialise with friends and family and not have to jump in the car and drive a distance to be able to socialise. Wanted to talk to you quickly about Refresh Des Moines. So this is a much smaller example, but really it's still very scalable. So council and the business community use 3 different delivery mechanisms: physical changes in the public realm, supporting business through programs like the Invest and Shopfront program, and committing to long-term change. Some really practical examples that were undertaken in Refresh Des Moines was looking at new seating and planter boxes, changing over rubbish bins, installing public art, extension of the pedestrian crossing time across Victoria Road to ensure that pedestrians could actually get across Victoria Road without being run over. New, really small things like new street plantings, a water fountain, footpath improvements, revitalising the business chamber, and a shopfront improvement program. So 36 businesses were involved in the shopfront improvement program, and that only took about $33,000 from council, but it actually had private investment of over 350%. So that's a really good example of where council can kick something off and businesses can get excited and actually change the look and feel of the street. I wanted to talk to you very quickly about a small example in North Strathfield. So it's really small. It's only 500 metres along of a shopping village and only on one side of a high traffic road. What we really liked here was talking to the community about what physical things could happen and what connections could be made in the area to actually change the look and feel. So it was re-establishing that connection between businesses and the local primary school, which was the main attractor to this small shopping precinct, installing public art in private locations, tree planting, new businesses have opened in the area, and we've really seen successful changes to the public realm that has made the place look and feel completely different with relatively small financial input. So I encourage you to think about, what does your place need? You know, is it physical changes? Is it about an advocate to know and understand what a place needs? Is it about somebody to bring all the different players to the table and understand that business, engineers, community organisations and residents all potentially want the same thing? They want a great, active and vibrant place. And it's really about how those discussions and how those potential negotiations can go to be able to get really great outcomes. The City of Canada Bay's principles are really about one size doesn't actually fit all. Long-term commitment is actually needed. If you need the change in a place, people actually need to want to make that change. You need to utilise those local connections. The people that actually live and run businesses in the place are the people that know that place best. You need to do the do I actually want to be there test. If you don't want to be there, potentially customers and residents don't want to be there either. And so what are the reasons that you do or don't want to be in a place? And finally, what have we learnt? You really do need that catalyst and that commitment. You need to have people interested in turning the negatives into positives. Relationships are the thing that's going to make a place work. Leverage those limited resources by working together. Try and sell those quick wins and share the stories. And remember that this approach is actually scalable. Try it in a small example and then grow from there. So finally, thank you very much for your time. Please come and check out the City of Canada Bay. Remember to borrow, steal or share ideas from other places. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We've made loads. And everyone brings something to the table. Thanks very much.